Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving deep into a monumental global shift. For decades, the international stage was pretty much defined by a few familiar players. You had the US as the established superpower, China as the rising challenger, and the EU holding its own as the economic heavyweight. But that framework? Well, it's just not complete anymore. India is rapidly transforming from what we used to call an emerging market into a massive, system-shaping global superpower. We are going to unpack exactly how and why this multidimensional megapower is rewriting the rules of the 21st century, and what that actually means for our future, our businesses, and the world we live in.
Right out of the gate, we have to talk about a staggering demographic advantage. India recently overtook China as the world's most populous country, with over 1.4 billion people. But the total headcount isn't even the most important part of the story. The median age in India is incredibly young, just 28 years old. To put that into perspective, the median age in China is 39, and in the EU it's 44. It's absolutely wild when you really think about it. This massive, youthful workforce is essentially a formidable engine, and it is set to drive decades of economic growth, rapid innovation, and consumer market expansion on a scale we haven't really seen before.
So this begs the question, why is India fast becoming a global power on par with the US, China, and the European Union? And it's absolutely crucial to understand that we are no longer talking about future potential here. This is a present-day reality. To answer this, we need to take a close look at the very foundations of this strategic ascent.
To get to the bottom of this, we're going to walk through 6 core pillars in this explainer. First, the sleeping giant awakens. Then, the digital and tech boom, reaching for the stars, culture and soft power, challenges on the horizon, and finally, a new global pull. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. The sleeping giant awakens. From emerging market to global engine. You know that old geopolitical cliché of India as a sleeping giant? Yeah, scratch that. It is completely outdated. The giant is wide awake and it's moving fast.
Just think about the sheer economic weight we're dealing with. India is already the 5th largest economy by nominal GDP, and it's actually the 3rd largest when you look at purchasing power parity, which basically measures the real value of goods people can afford locally. But what really separates India from other major economies right now is its sheer momentum. While a lot of advanced economies are facing stagnation, India is consistently posting growth rates of 6 to 7%. This isn't happening by accident. It's being driven by massive, ongoing investments in infrastructure, think roads, ports, and digital networks, plus a really smart strategic shift toward its own vast domestic market, making it far less reliant on traditional exports.
Section 2. The digital and tech boom, powering a billion connections. Let's look at how that massive economy is fueling a digital leapfrog that the rest of the world is watching very, very closely. This is where it gets really staggering. The drop in data costs in India is just wow. Back in 2014, 1 single gigabyte of data cost around 308 rupees. By 2022, that plummeted to just 9 rupees and 34 paise. This unprecedented affordability catalyzed an absolute explosion in connectivity. They've grown from 25 crore internet users in 2014 to a projected 97 crore by 2025. It is, without a doubt, one of the cheapest and largest internet markets on the entire planet.
And to truly wrap our heads around the scale of this boom, just consider the number 18.68 billion. That represents the number of monthly Unified Payments Interface or UPI transactions in May 2025 alone. UPI is India's incredibly seamless real-time payment system, and it currently accounts for nearly half of all real-time transactions globally. The formalization of the Indian economy through these state-scale technology systems is rivaling and honestly, in some areas exceeding the digital public infrastructure of fully developed nations.
But we aren't just talking about software engineering anymore. India's IT industry is projected to hit $350 billion by 2026. They managed to roll out over 4.7 lakh 5G base stations in just 22 months. On top of that, under their India AI mission, national compute power has rapidly exceeded 34,000 GPUs, meaning they are aggressively preparing for a future driven by artificial intelligence and hyperscale data centers. The deep tech market alone, which is all about cutting-edge tech based on advanced scientific discoveries, is projected to reach $30 billion by the end of the decade.
Moving on to Section 3, Reaching for the Stars, India's cost-effective space journey. We are shifting focus here from digital infrastructure right into some remarkably frugal hard power in space.
The journey of ISRO, that's the Indian Space Research Organization, is literally the stuff of legends. Get this. Back in 1963, they actually transported their first rocket on the back of a bicycle. A bicycle! Fast forward to 1975, they launched Aryabhata, their first satellite. By 2014, India became the first Asian country to reach Mars orbit, and they were the first worldwide to pull it off on their very first attempt. Then, in 2023, India made global history with Chandrayaan-3 by safely landing a rover on the Moon's south pole.
Which leads to one of my absolute favorite comparisons in modern aerospace. ISRO achieved that interplanetary success with the Mongolian Mars mission for less money than it cost Hollywood to produce the fictional space movie Gravity. I mean, no way, right? It's a really powerful testament to their ability to innovate effectively at just a fraction of global costs.
Okay, Section 4. Culture and soft power. The pluralistic influence. Because let's be real, a superpower isn't just defined by its economy or its rockets, it's defined by its global resonance. We're talking about a cultural reach that is vast, pluralistic, and incredibly vibrant. India is home to 43 UNESCO World Heritage Sites, adding places like Rabindranath Tagore Santiniketan and the Moidams of the Ahom dynasty just in 2024. They are the world's largest spice producer, and with their massive array of plant-based dishes, Indian cuisine is totally leading the global vegetarian revolution. Add to that Bollywood, which is the world's largest film-producing industry, and a highly influential global diaspora that currently provides CEOs for tech titans like Google, Microsoft, and Adobe.
And anchoring all of this cultural reach is a profound ancient philosophy, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. It translates to the whole world is a family. It perfectly encapsulates India's inclusive worldview, acting as a moral and cultural anchor that extends their diplomatic influence far beyond their own borders.
Section 5. Challenges on the horizon. The realities of growth. Now, to keep things objective here, we have to recognize that no nation's rise is a straight line, and India faces very real challenges on its path forward.
For instance, despite that massive digital boom we just talked about, a pretty stark digital divide remains. While 72.5% of urban males have internet access, only 24.6% of rural females do. These kinds of geographic and socioeconomic disparities are significant hurdles, and they're going to require ongoing, highly targeted policy interventions to ensure the growth is actually inclusive.
Also, think about it. The faster a country digitizes, the larger target it becomes. This rapid growth has naturally exposed new cybersecurity vulnerabilities. We've seen past incidents, breaches targeting critical infrastructure and large-scale databases, which really emphasize that comprehensive data protection regulations and specialized cybersecurity personnel remain critical, non-negotiable requirements for India moving forward.
So, to quickly summarize these realities, over 55,000 villages are actually still waiting for basic mobile connectivity. There's also an acknowledged reliance on foreign technologies that can act as a bottleneck for truly independent growth. The regulatory framework for data privacy is frankly still catching up to the technology itself. And even with all of its frugal innovation, ISRO does face funding constraints that limit larger, long-term deep space exploratory missions. Sustaining India's phenomenal growth is going to require addressing these infrastructural and regulatory gaps head-on.
Finally, Section 6, a new global pole, shaping the multipolar world. When we bring all these different pieces together, the massive economy, the tech infrastructure, the space capabilities, and the cultural influence, it totally redefines India's modern geopolitical stance.
India is currently the fourth largest military spender globally. They operate a blue water navy, meaning they can project power across open oceans all over the globe, specifically to protect vital maritime trade routes in the Indian Ocean. Diplomatically, their real superpower is strategic autonomy. India impressively balances ties with the US, Russia, the EU, and the Global South all at the same time. We saw this in action during its G20 presidency, where India proved its ability to build consensus across heavily competing power centers. They are acting as a vital anchor for stability in the Indo-Pacific region. But the real takeaway here, what makes India's ascent so incredibly unique, is its model. They aren't just copying the state-driven, export-heavy playbooks of other rising nations. Instead, India offers a highly adaptable, politically resilient alternative that is democratic, increasingly decentralized, and absolutely digital first. For the rest of the world, India is no longer a peripheral player, it is a strategic peer.
Which leaves us with a pretty massive question to ponder. How will a pluralistic, democratic, and digital-first India completely reshape the geopolitical system in the 21st century? The multipolar world isn't just a theory anymore. It is here. India is undeniably one of its central poles, and its gravity is only increasing. Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next one.